Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That, of course, means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef, working towards a weekend. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. The Masters tournament is underway from Augusta. We'll talk about it at the end of the hour. Joe Healy will be with us in 30 minutes. What did I say 13 minutes? Nope. 30 minutes. He'll be here talking about the weekend to come in Southeastern Conference baseball play. LSU football back on the practice field earlier today. Matt Moscona and Chris Marler have your report up at LouisianaSports.net. We'll talk about that in 15 minutes. Chris Blair along in hour two. And an interesting name with the Saints draft I had not heard yet. We'll talk about it and what the connection is to the current roster coming up 1 hour from now at 2 o'clock. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
Incredible work yesterday by our Matt Moscona on After Further Review. He had 45 minutes with LSU Athletic Director Verge Ausberry right here in this studio yesterday afternoon. I highly, highly, highly recommend you go listen to that. Matt asked some real questions, and Verge gave some real answers. And I thought it was captivating from start to finish. If you don't have 45 minutes to sit and watch the cut-up, which Paul O'Neill put together for us at the ESPN YouTube channel, I wrote about it at LouisianaSports.net and included a statement from LSU head baseball coach Jay Johnson. And that's where I want to focus on the Verge Ausberry conversation. He went for 45 minutes. I'm not going to go 45 minutes on Verge talking for 45 minutes. I'm going to pare it down to 15 minutes. And what I think is the hottest button issue in this town, the most message board fodder in this town, the Twitter interactions I get twice a week, text messages from my friends, something that we've mentioned a lot about, and it's revenue sharing because it's very new. The transfer portal is not very new. NIL is not very new. We've had these now for some time. Revenue sharing is just finishing year one. And so with that information, after 1 year, you understand that you may take a different approach moving forward. And the comments that were the most pointed, the most interesting to me were, of course, about baseball. I will read you a couple of quotes from Verge Ausberry on Matt's show yesterday, and we'll deepen the conversation. Matt's asked him a question about revenue sharing, and Verge said, quote, "I want my coaches not to say, okay, we couldn't get a player because we couldn't afford this. We don't want that. We want to make sure we have the best players, the best talent, the best coaches, the best staffs. It's going to cost us a lot, but that's what we're fighting with our overall budget." So that's a starting point. Verge says, I don't need my coaches saying, I'm a good recruiter. We've got a great brand. These facilities are awesome. We are losing in revenue sharing. We are losing in NIL. We are not coming with a good enough offer to get the players we need in baseball, in women's basketball, in football, in softball, in men's basketball to compete. That's what he says initially. And then the conversation moved toward baseball because, as you're all very well aware at this point, LSU followed the NCAA lawsuit settlement in terms of percentages of revenue. Football, 75%, men's basketball, 15%, women's basketball, 5%, everybody else, 5%. And that works for most people because that's what the television contracts generally say. But around here, we're well aware, Starkville, Mississippi, well aware, like baseball is not really looped in with everybody else. Baseball is a pretty big deal. And it was looped in with everybody else at LSU last year. And Matt asked Verge about that. And Verge said, and quote, "Moving forward, we're going to make sure that baseball, their rev share is going up. We're also going to have more money for them in NIL. I've been meeting with Jay about that. He had some concerns about where we were and some things we had to do, and we met this week on that." So Verge says, we were short there. We made a mistake there. I've met with Jay about it. And this is not scuttlebutt. Like, you hear Verge say it on the record, and it's not a coincidence that a head coach who has just won 2 national championships in 3 years is going to Tiger Rag and saying, hey, we got to decide how good we want to be in baseball. Like, you don't do that after you've won 2 out of 3 national championships unless something happened that you weren't thrilled about. That's not a leap of faith. I heard about this last summer. I candidly kind of looked at it and went, okay, we'll see. Like, I think they're doing okay. Like, without any information, I said, okay, I think we're doing, but I heard about this. And then Jay went on the record about it. And now Verge is saying we're making a change. Baseball's revenue sharing is going up. And he said yesterday on Matt's show that baseball is going to get 5%. That is a significant change. And this is strictly based in recruiting. And you can tell that last year that things didn't go the way LSU wanted them to in July because you were just off a national championship and things started bubbling. And to Verge Ausberry's credit, who was not the athletic director then, it's obvious that changes are being made. I confirmed last night, wrote this at LouisianaSports.net, that meeting between Verge Ausberry and Jay Johnson did happen this past week. As Verge said on Matt's show yesterday, nothing is finalized. LSU the athletic department runs off the fiscal year that mirrors the school year. So you're going from essentially Labor Day through Memorial Day. If that's generally what we're talking about here. So nothing has been rubber stamped here. I can confirm that. But it's obvious that changes are being made at LSU. And I've said this a bunch of times. And I mean this, and I'm talking to you, the LSU fan. You understand this too, because I'm imagining that your world is full of LSU fans as well. But I could go to 10 different, 15 different, 50 different LSU fans and tell them to cut the 100% pie up in revenue sharing, how that person would like it, he or she would like it, and everybody's just going to look different. What's non-negotiable is that football has to drive the bus. Football pays for everything. Everything, everything, everything. So you have to get that right. You have to drive revenues through football. It has to pay the bills. You have to get the coach right. You have to get the players right. You have to get them coached right, and you have to win the games. And you've got to drive revenue through football. Everything else is a waterfall from that. Okay? LSU has made an investment here in men's basketball. And Verge talked about that yesterday on Matt's show. Talked about how we have to be great in men's basketball. This is a quote. I just think that's a sport that is a revenue generator for us. You talk the TV contracts, ticket sales, that's about a $9 to $10 million generator for us right now. So I think we can up that and be better there. A lot of research we've been doing trying to figure out where we can grow financially, and men's basketball was that area. We are underachieving there. So Verge says we got to invest in men's basketball too. That can make a profit. Baseball can make a profit. It did not last year. You had a nice little postseason run. Jay's the highest paid coach in the country. You lost about $900,000. But baseball can get close to and could turn a profit. And LSU is going to invest in that. And women's basketball loses money at LSU. Everyone is aware of this. And Verge addressed that. He said women's basketball doesn't have a big TV contract. This is a quote. TV contracts are things that carry most of these sports, and they don't have that. What they have is an unbelievable brand, and that brand is Kim Mulkey. And that brand draws a lot of attention to LSU. Some people love her. Some people don't. But that brand she has, she's very important to us. Look at the young women that apply to come to LSU. They talk about women's basketball. You talk about 68,000 applicants to the institution. It's a big part of Kim's national brand. Out-of-state tuition can help make the institution revenue as well. They see it as a loss leader. And there's quibbling back and forth. I read the internet. I get tweets all the time. Take the money from women's basketball. Put it all in baseball. We suck at men's basketball. Throw it all at baseball. Everyone would cut this pie differently, and I'm right there as well. But you understand how Verge is thinking about this. We drive the bus with football. Got to be awesome. We've got Lane Kiffin here. He's got to be awesome. We've gone and invested in Will Wade. That's a moneymaker for us. We can make more money at it. We got to do that. Kim Mulkey and her women's basketball program, that's a loss leader for us. It's great for our brand. They're good every year. They're in the NCAA tournament. They're hosting tournament games. They're in the second weekend. They've made a Final Four. They've won a national championship. We believe in that. And we probably didn't get baseball exactly right in year one. We're fixing it. And they're not doing it at the expense of women's basketball. Women's basketball is going to get that revenue share as well. They're going to cut back on the revenue share with the quote-unquote Olympic sports and international sports, track and field, swimming and diving. Some of those coaches would like more scholarship money. LSU's willing to help them with that, and they're going to drive revenue to about 6 sports: football, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics. They're going to get the rev share. Essentially what has been determined here after a year of rev share is that LSU fell in line with a lot of places and did it with that hard and fast number that the NCAA lawsuit settled, which pushed baseball to the side. It was a mistake. It should not have been done that way, and it's being corrected. It has not been officially corrected, but it needs to be corrected. And it is going to be corrected. I can tell you this based on some conversations that I've had over the last 24 hours, because this Verge conversation with Matt, and I highly recommend you go listen to it. This conversation was something that opened my ears, and I said, I gotta start talking to some people about this. So I did last night and into this morning. And what I can tell you is that there was a miscalculation with baseball that needs to be corrected, and they're working towards that. I can tell you that Jay Johnson and Verge Ausberry have a wonderful relationship. I have a quote in my story at louisianasports.net, and I'll read it to you here from Jay Johnson. It says, "I'm very fortunate to be working with Verge. He was instrumental in hiring me at LSU, and he played a large part in our 2 national championships. He knows the importance of baseball at LSU. We had a great meeting this week, and I have full confidence in his leadership and commitment to help me make the LSU baseball the best it can be." The synopsis of this from a baseball perspective is that they made an error, and they're going to correct it moving forward. And that tells me that there were some recruiting pursuits last year that LSU felt really good about that they came up short in. And that can't happen at LSU over money, which is what Verge said on the record here on the radio yesterday. And you think that a brand and a program and a couple of national championship trophies will just open the floodgates to players. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. That matters. It allows prospects to pick up the phone. But you know who else is dialing the phone? Texas, Tennessee, A&M, Arkansas. They're dialing too. Mississippi State, they're dialing. I promise you. And LSU is going to be positioned better moving forward after year one. And keep in mind, Verge Ausberry was not the athletic director when this was set up year number 1. He's been on this job for 4 months, and he mentioned that on Matt's show as well. Y'all know how I feel about this baseball program. And y'all know that if I was dividing up the pie, I would take care of baseball. That doesn't make that right. It's just where my passion lies. We all have it. Some of y'all are 96% football. Some of y'all are 70% women's basketball. You love it. I've seen the PMAC. It's full. Some of y'all think men's basketball should get 2%. Some of y'all say, everybody else is good at men's basketball. Throw 40% at that. And none of that is wrong. It's where your passion lies. But y'all know where my passion lies. It is with that baseball program. I love it. I love this time of year more than any time of year. I spent 2 weeks in Omaha last year. It was like a dream. I loved it. I love it. And I've had some concerns over the last 5 months about the LSU baseball program in a new era, understanding where college baseball falls on the national scale of things. It's low, y'all. It's low. I'm aware of that. Not low in my heart, not low in my household. It's low. And I fear that football's got to take over, and you've got to drive men's basketball. And I know what Kim Mulkey's going to ask for. And I look at baseball, and I have some concerns. And I don't think those concerns were completely ill-founded. I do believe this, though. From listening to Verge at this desk, this very desk yesterday, they're taking care of LSU baseball. They're working towards it. No coach on that campus, aside from Lane Kiffin, is going to get exactly what he or she wants. Lane Kiffin will. He's going to get what he wants because that you have to take care of the sacred cow. No matter how much you love the baseball program, no matter how much you love women's basketball, no matter how much you love gymnastics being great, football has to be taken care of. Lane Kiffin will get what he wants. The other coaches are always going to go, but maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit more. And that's an okay thing if they say maybe a little bit more. If they stand there and go, this ain't getting it, well, then you've got a bit of a problem. And I'm not here to say that Jay Johnson said that to anybody, but I'm just suggesting that baseball sensed something was amiss last year, and they're working to correct it. That is a positive thing to me, and it's got to be for most of you that are listening here, that are listening to me. So to me, Verge Ausberry deserves a ton of credit for sitting here and talking openly on the mic, and I feel like a lot of LSU fans have to feel pretty good about it. Not changing anything with this year. Basketball was what it was. Baseball is trying to get things moving right now and is not where a lot of people want them to be, that team included. But things are going to shift a little bit as we move forward. And that's just the nature of this thing. You had to kind of figure out the portal when it happened. You had to kind of figure out NIL when they opened the Wild Wild West. And now you got to kind of figure out revenue sharing in each individual athletic department. LSU's working on it really hard. And I think I feel pretty good about where things are, just to kind of put a bow on that discussion. So, again, I highly recommend you go listen to Verge's conversation with Matt on YouTube yesterday. If you don't have time to do that, I do have a piece with a lot of Verge's comments with Jay's quote there and with some numbers put to it at louisianasports.net that you can read for free. It's right there at the homepage, so I invite you all to go ahead and do that. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We will come back, give you a little update on LSU's football practice today. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, LifetimeRoofingLA.com, LifetimeRoofingLA.com. They are so fired up this year to, for the first time ever, be able to offer you a lifetime warranty. That's on their workmanship. That's on their materials as well. And those materials are backed by CertainTeed, one of the oldest and most trusted names in building materials. If you're in your forever home and you're going to be there for a long time, and you feel like you may need a new roof before storm season, or should something happen during storm season, and now you know, okay, we've got to get a new roof. Keep in mind, if you're looking for a lifetime workmanship warranty, Lifetime Roofing is who you need to call. It's easy. It's right there in the name. Lifetime workmanship warranty, Lifetime Roofing. If you're looking for financing, they've got that as well. 0% for 18 months. You can even finance a deductible if you need to. If you've got some kind of 2% on a larger roof and you'd like to finance that instead of paying it up front, they've got a whole team that is there to help you with that. It's Lifetime Roofing. Find them online at lifetimeroofingla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Stay in the game with LouisianaSports.net. Text LSN to 225-499-1045 for breaking news, instant updates on LSU, the SEC, and everything across the sports world.
Just a reminder, tomorrow from 10 to noon, so before my show 10 to noon, I'll be out at the 45th annual sidewalk sale at Red Stick Sports right there on Essen. They got a ton of incredible deals, talking about Adidas and Under Armour workout apparel, 50% off. All the LSU apparel you're looking for, 30% off. Bags from Under Armour and Adidas, under $20, 50% off bats and gloves over there at Red Stick Sports. So come on by and see me. The deal goes through Saturday, but I'll be there tomorrow from 10 to noon. If you want to come say hey, I'll have some giveaway stuff as well. But always a great time. We've been out there to do our show a few times over the years, and I'll be out there 10 to noon hanging out at Red Stick Sports, their 45th annual sidewalk sale tomorrow. Gets you an update from the Masters coming up in about 25 minutes. Joe Healy's here in 10 minutes talking SEC baseball and the weekend to come. I was not out at LSU practice today. Had to be with the kiddos this morning, but Matt and Chris Marlar had you covered, and they've got a practice report up at louisianasports.net. So I was reading through it, and one thing that I thought was of note was that Whit Weeks was there working on agility drills. I've seen Whit out there a couple of times, and he's just been in a jersey hanging out. The last two times I've been to practice, he just wasn't there at all that I could see. But he is going through some things, working through some things, which is good. He's just dealt with injuries for a long time now. It goes back to the bowl game when he had that gruesome injury in the Texas Bowl. And then last year in the Ole Miss game, he got hurt and tried to tough it out and then sat out a few weeks and then came back to play with his two brothers in that game and then sat the Oklahoma game. So he's just been banged up for a long time now. Good to see him moving around a little bit, even though not with the guys. So that's a good thing. I was reading through Matt's play-by-play, and one thing that's readily apparent in these 6 plays that we see to begin practice, they call it quick 6. It's not full contact. It's thud at most, just trying to get the blood moving. And I'm not here to suggest in any way, shape, or form that the 6 plays we see with no leg pads on to begin practice are an installation of the offense. I feel like sometimes when I start talking about spring practice and try to comment on this or that, you could roll your eyes and be like, dude, it's spring ball. Like, it's really not that big a deal. I know it's not that big a deal, but it is what we have. And something that's very obvious when they're running 6 plays is every single time we see them run those 6 plays, there is at least one quarterback designed run. At least one quarterback designed run. And it's with all the quarterbacks. And they also do, and when they work on the read option drills, there's always a designed quarterback run involved in that as well. And it just piqued my interest because when you look at Ole Miss last year with Trinidad Chambliss as the quarterback, Kejuan Lacey was obviously the bell cow. He ran the ball 306 times. He ran for over 1,500 yards and 24 touchdowns. But Trinidad Chambliss also ran for 520 yards and 8 scores last year. Like that's a pretty big part of what you're doing offensively. And we always see one with Landon Clark, with Huson Longstreet, when they do the read option drills. Sometimes they do a drill where they'll snap it to the quarterback and then they'll just run off left tackle with the running back as the lead blocker. And that is very clearly something that Lane Kiffin wants to do. Jackson Dart ran a little bit. Chambliss ran a little bit more. He wants to run the quarterback. That's great because guess what? Sam Leavitt is a great runner. Sam Leavitt had explosive runs at Arizona State. You turn on the highlight tape, just go to YouTube, crank up the highlight tape. He's busting off some like big runs. He's got some speed. I don't know if he's the smoothest runner I've ever seen, but he is fast and he's a really good athlete. And so that all lines up. Except he had screws removed from his feet 4 days ago. So the question now becomes for me, and it's not one I'm going to get an answer to anytime soon. I'm going to have to wait until Labor Day to get an answer. But can he do that this coming fall? I don't know. I know this, and I've mentioned this a couple times, but it's all I had to work on. Matt Mauck had this procedure done, the Lisfranc fracture. Now, this was back in 2002. So I'm thinking that modern medicine over 24 years has maybe made some advancements. But in 2002, he didn't feel like he could run quite as well. Y'all remember when he came in the SEC championship game against Tennessee? He really couldn't throw it at all, but he was running all over the place. Like, he's a great athlete. He's a pro baseball player, and he gave Phil Fulmer's team fits. Phil Fulmer told Matt in Houston a couple months ago that like that's the hardest loss of his career, was losing that game to LSU. It cost him a chance to go to the Rose Bowl and play for a national championship because Mauck was running all over the place. And then the next year he was a starter, and he came out and he broke his foot in a blowout in the Swamp when LSU won 41-7. And then he came back in 2003, and he didn't feel like he could run quite as well. He set records throwing the ball. We won the national championship. But didn't feel like he could run as much. Now, Brandon Taylor had this injury in 2010, right around Halloween. I don't know if it was during the Bama game or right before it. Either way, right around Halloween. And in spring football, he was running sprints. That was in 2011 in the spring. So those are two conflicting ideas. I'm not sure which one's more applicable, the quarterback or the one that was more recent, but I know that Lane Kiffin would like to run his quarterback, and I know that Sam Leavitt at Arizona State could really run. I just don't know how much of that they're going to be able to incorporate in the fall. Some more from practice today. There was a great interception that we got video of on Matt's Twitter feed of Tamarcus Cooley going up and making an interception off Landon Clark that ended the 11-on-11 period. I think LSU's secondary is going to be pretty good this year. If Pickett becomes what we think Pickett should be, which is really tall to ask, when I think about that, and I think about, hey, Pickett, like you need to be Derek Stingley, you need to be Mansour Delane, you need to be Morris Claiborne, Tre'Davious White, Patrick Peterson, like you're the 5-star, like you need to be the dude. And I think about that. It happens a lot at LSU, but I hearken over to the baseball side of things and feel like, hey, Kason Evans, you're a highly talented dude. You've had a good freshman year. Like, you got to go be Cade Anderson. You got to be Paul Skeens. Well, it happens sometimes, but it doesn't happen every time. And I'm curious if it happens with Stingley, who has the ability. And if he does, you got Woodland on the other side who's solid, and you've got a veteran in Cooley, and you've got a potential star in Benefield. not a star like the position, a star like a great player in Benefield. And you've got Deshaun Spears and even Fahim Delane who could play behind him. Like, it looks like a pretty good group. And I thought Cooley had a nice year last year at LSU. I feel like in Blake Baker's defense in year 2, he could take even a bigger leap. He's very versatile. He can play the ball. He's not afraid to tackle. And one thing you're always going to get from TaMarcus Cooley, he plays exceptionally hard. So it's cool to see him go up and make a play and get an interception on a jump ball from Landon Clark in the end zone. Not a lot of other real meat on the bone from practice today, especially since I wasn't there and I'm just reading reports. But cool play by TaMarcus Cooley there. I'll tell you this, and this is just speculation on my part. I don't know that we're going to get a lot more great coverage from practice. We got an ability over the first 3 weeks to see guys for the first time, to see where guys line up in order on the offensive line, to see what the alignment is in the secondary, to see who's working at star as opposed to safety, to see what wide receivers going through first. Like and now we've seen all that, all the alignment stuff, all the what do the guys look like in pads. Now it comes down to, like, are you going to see actual plays? Are you going to see quarterbacks going 7-on-7? And we're just not allowed to see that stuff right now. So that's fine with me, as I've said a million times. But all the alignment stuff and the physical assignment and like the how the guys look, we've showed you all that over the first 3 weeks. What we get over the next 2, I guess, kind of remains to be seen. But Matt does have a practice report up at LouisianaSports.net right now. If you want to go check that out, it is, of course, for free. Our Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Do beef a different way. If you're frustrated by the quality of beef that you're buying and the price that you're paying for it, well, how about trying things a little bit differently? Sagrera Farms is always going to give you an unbelievable product. It is prime USD Angus beef right here, just north of Baton Rouge. And you know that you're going to get an unbelievable product every single time because John has mastered what he's doing there. So if you're going to pay a premium price for a terrible product wherever you buy your beef, how about going to get a premium product for that same price at Sagrera Farms? You can have it in your freezer all summer long during that grilling season. Steaks, flank steak, ribeye, filet, strip. Of course, you got your ground beef for your burgers. It's all we do at the Palmer House now. Highly suggest you check it out. Give Sean a call, 225-719-1723. That's 225-719-1723. Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef, bringing you our Thursday shows. Patrick Reed, off to a really good start at the Masters. If you were listening yesterday, that was my pick. I'm not necessarily pulling for Patrick Reed, who went to live, but I just had a feeling that this was going to be a good week for him. It's real early, but he's gotten off to a really nice start. Get you caught up on a master scoreboard coming up here in 15 minutes. We'll step aside right now. When we come back, Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team talking some college baseball next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. Bank local with First American Bank and Trust. They're truly local, like truly local. They have 25 locations, and all of them are right here in Southeast Louisiana. So if you're just outside of Baton Rouge, maybe Dutchtown, Jones Creek, maybe up I-12 in St. Tammany or Tangipahoa, maybe you're down the bayou, St. James, St. John, Lafourche Parish, Terrebonne. There's a First American Bank and Trust near you. I told you I was over in Metairie a few months ago. There's one right there. They're all right here in Southeast Louisiana. Bank local. The people that make the decisions on your commercial loan, local people. The people that make the decision on your personal loan, local people. People that you see, walk around with, go to church with, or at the grocery store with every day. It's First American Bank and Trust. You can find them online at fabt.com. That's First American Bank and Trust.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Remind you about One Bath and Closets before we get to some SEC baseball talk. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You know, safety is a big deal in the bathroom, especially as folks age. If there's someone in your life who maybe aging wants to stay home and you think there could be some risk there, You can't eliminate it, but mitigate against that risk if you can. You can put in non-slip floors. You can put in some handrails in some slippery areas, a walk-in tub for convenience and safety, maybe a shower with a bench in it. These are things that David and his team do all the time. So if you'd like to talk to David about the opportunity to do that, find him at onebathandclosets.com. You can request that free consultation, see pictures of their fantastic work, and get that project started. One Bath and Closets. Find them online at onebathandclosets.com. Right, let's talk some baseball. Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, also the Highway to Hoover podcast every single week. Joe, appreciate some time. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing okay. Let's talk about Tennessee. LSU fans watched a lot of them over the weekend. That's a tough 2-weekend stretch for the Vols between the trip to Nashville and LSU coming up to Knoxville. There's some talent there, but where are you on this Tennessee team right now?
Yeah, quickly losing faith, to be honest with you. And, we've talked about this before. I think I'm at a point where I'm never going to give up on a talented team in the SEC again. We've just seen too many instances of a team that looks totally listless, that just figures it out at the 11th hour and turns out that, they end up where we thought they were all along. LSU in 24, Florida last year, et cetera, et cetera. But I am quickly losing faith in them to the point where I think they're kind of at that spot where either this is going to be a torrid run through the second half of SEC play, and it's going to be one of those stories again, or it's going to be a situation where, this is just an underwhelming Tennessee team that it turns out they miss Tony Vitello and Frank Anderson maybe a little bit more than we thought. I think going into the year, I thought the talent would ultimately overcome those losses and that maybe we'd see a little bit of a drop-off in 27, 28 moving forward, but maybe the drop-off has come a little earlier. And if you look around, you look around that roster, and I don't, that maybe some of the evaluation was wrong on my part. You look around and it's like, especially on the offensive end, like, who's okay, Henry Ford, but other than that, who's really carrying that team? And it just looks a little light from a position player standpoint now that we have the 30 some odd games to look at here. And maybe that was missed evaluation. Maybe it was just, making assumptions that the next guys up were going to be good enough. Whatever it was, there's certainly light on that side of the ball.
The biggest result probably the weekend, Georgia going to Starkville and getting all 3 games. Let's start on the Mississippi State side of that. How do you feel about it?
Actually, not to the extent that you could feel okay about a sweep. I kind of felt okay about that one from a state standpoint. Because I think some of the things that we knew were issues became issues. Charlie Foster didn't pitch that great, and we kind of knew that there was a risk of that being the case coming off of a good week against Ole Miss. We thought that there's a chance that he would come back to the pack a little bit. He did. So I kind of priced that in a little bit. Now, you never want to get swept, certainly on your home field. That's not ideal. But, as long as Ryan McPherson comes back at some point, and the word I have gotten is that they're optimistic that he will be back at some point and, really strengthens that starting rotation again, I think I still feel pretty good about him because the team is going to continue to hit, and they were in that series last weekend. It's not like they got run off the field 3 times. So, again, to the extent you can feel okay after a sweep, I do still feel pretty strong about Mississippi State being a contender here.
I won't hold you to this, but LSU plays Ole Miss on the road this weekend. They have A&M coming to Baton Rouge the following weekend, and then they're in Starkville to play Mississippi State. How do you feel about Ryan McPherson's availability for that for our home audience here?
That is about the time when I have heard he is, about the time when they're expecting him back at some point. Now, even if he does come back at that point, he's been gone long enough. This isn't Cade Townsend where he was out like a couple of weeks. Like this will have been like 8 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
So even if he's back, like you're looking at a lesser version of him. So I would guess they're really targeting, honestly, probably the postseason for him to be something like what they had before.
Let's talk about the series coming up this weekend, and I want to go to Texas and Texas A&M for a number of reasons. The first being Jim Schlossnagle's return to College Station. How's that going to go?
Yeah, it's going to be as close to a South American or European soccer match as we're going to have in college baseball. Like, you see the video of soccer matches from across the world where they have to put like barbed wire up to keep people off the field. Like that feels like that type of weekend in College Station. I got to be honest.
A&M's kind of laying in the weeds here, 7-5. Nobody's really talked about them much. What do you think?
Yeah, like they've quietly put up a 26-6 record or something ridiculous, 25-6 maybe, like something like that. Like they're quietly just humming along, and it's the offense that's really getting it done for them. Well, 2 things. I should say not just the offense. The offense is mostly it. Caden Sorrell is an SEC Player of the Year type of guy. Nico Partita is an SEC Freshman of the Year. type of guy. They've also really seemed to hit in the transfer portal, and they've even had some young guys come on late, like a guy named Jorian Wilson, who's a really talented kid, who didn't play much first half of the season, and now he's just knocking the cover off the ball. So they've had some things go their way. The other thing I think that has really helped is Aiden Sims in the rotation, because the veterans in the rotation have not necessarily held up their end of the bargain, and that is still where I'm a little bit wary about Texas A&M. But their third guy, Aiden Sims, is kind of quietly in the mix among the best Sunday starters in the country and certainly in the conference. So I'm with you. Like, I kind of think they're a team that I just looked up this past week. It's funny you bring them up, because I looked up this past week and was just like, I guess they are pretty good. And obviously we'll learn a lot more this weekend, because we know Texas is good, and we'll learn a lot more this weekend.
2 6-6 teams have my interest this week. Auburn will host Kentucky. Of course, LSU saw Kentucky a couple of weeks ago. Auburn kind of going the wrong direction at this point. How big is this series for those two?
Yeah, it feels pretty big, just from the standpoint of, we know, like, if you told me over under 0.5 hosts among those two teams, like, I'm going over. I think one of them gets there, and this feels like the series that could spin one team one direction and spin the other team the other direction, because we know if you get to about 15, 16 wins, high RPI, you're in the mix there. So yeah, I think this was kind of huge. I think it feels a little bit bigger for Auburn for me, because they had higher expectations this year. We liked this Kentucky team, but we kind of thought, okay, borderline host, high-end 2 seed, and that's still very much in play. Whereas with Auburn, we thought, hey, this could be another top 8 seed type of season for them if things really go right. So it feels bigger for Auburn. I also just kind of have I think Kentucky's roster just kind of is what it is. Like, yeah. I think it's solid. I think it's a high floor. I think it's limited ceiling. Auburn's roster is kind of underperforming what my expectations were. So for me, it feels like Auburn needs this a little bit more than the Wildcats do.
Auburn's offensive stats are pretty bad, quite frankly, at this point. So we'll see if they can figure that out against Kentucky. I'll speak for myself, which I'm supposed to let you do the talking here, but I'll speak for myself. I'm having a hard time selling Arkansas. I'm also having a hard time buying Alabama. They will play in Tuscaloosa. That may be just that I'm an idiot, but how do you feel about those two teams and then this series?
Oh, I'm 100% with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like you. I'm with you, where I feel like Alabama has probably played a little bit above its head. Now, the counterpoint to that is that they've done this largely with Justin LeBron being pretty pedestrian, to be honest. Like, he's kicking the ball around a little bit. Like, he's hitting about 260 in SEC play and overall. It's not like he really crushed it in non-conference play either. So that's the counterpoint, is like, well, if he improves, maybe this actually is sustainable. But I tend to be with you, where I'm not quite sold yet. And also with Arkansas, this program is too consistent for me to I might just end up being wrong about them, but I continue to pound the table of this team's going to figure it out, and this team's going to end up basically where they always end up from a postseason standpoint. And I just might be wrong. Like, eventually, if you keep betting on that, eventually you're going to be wrong one time, and this just might be the year. But I continue to hold steady to that, because they tend to figure it out when it's all said and done. And I certainly, at least from a pitching standpoint, I certainly like the talent there. I do wonder, and I've not seen their rotation yet this weekend, but I do wonder if they do need to shake things up, particularly on Sundays with Colin Fisher. Just hasn't gone particularly well with him, and I do wonder. Lord knows they've got plenty of talented options on that pitching staff, so making that swap doesn't seem like too heavy a lift, but it just might be time.
It's an arm farm up there in Fayetteville, has been for a long time. All right, let's get to the home team. LSU headed to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Ole Miss has released their rotation. They'll go with Elliott and Townsend in the first two. LSU, I'm assuming, will go with Evans and Schmidt, and then whatever happens on Sunday. How do you feel about these two teams in this matchup in Oxford?
Yeah, Ole Miss is, as hard as LSU is to read, like, Ole Miss is kind of like low-key hard for me to read. And maybe it just is that they're just going to be an inconsistent team. When they hit, they've got a chance to beat anybody, especially when Cade Townsend has been pitching like he has the last couple of weekends. And when they don't hit, like, it's just they're going to struggle to really beat anybody, because that's kind of where their bread is buttered, is they've got enough pitching, but that's kind of dependent on them also scoring enough to make it to where they don't have to shut people out. As good as Hunter Elliott is, he's not really a guy who's going to go out there and throw 7 shutout. He's kind of he'll give you 5 or 6 and 2 or 3 runs, and he'll do that every week, which is the benefit to him, but he's not going to shut anybody down. So that's that. And then with LSU, I mean, I thought I knew exactly what I was going to tell you about LSU coming off last weekend, and you and I texted about it, like, offline. It was just like, hey, at least we know this team is fighting right now. Yeah. Like, because there was a time when I wasn't sure of that. It just this team didn't look like it had fight really early in the season, and at least now we know that's a part of this team's game. I don't know how good they are. I'm starting to wonder, like, were they really as talented as we thought? I'm taking a second look at this roster being like, I thought they were talented. Maybe they're just – and then you go and lose that midweek game to Bethune-Cookman, who is a good SWAC team, but it's a good SWAC team, right?
Yeah.
Like not a good American Athletic Conference or CUSA team even. And so, that was just kind of jarring. And I think maybe it goes to show two things can be true. Like, this team does have a lot of fight. This team on the high end, talent-wise, is just fine when you talk about the top teams in the SEC. But I think the depth is a concern, and we see it week after week whenever they get to the end of the weekend. And sometimes when they get to these midweek games where the depth just doesn't show up like it needs to in these types of games.
Yeah, depth of the pitching staff is very, very poor at this point. But front end could be good. We'll see. We'll hope for another good weekend for LSU in Oxford. Joe, we appreciate the time. We'll talk next week.
All right, see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team, Highway to Hoover podcast, and Weekend Waypoints every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on YouTube in the morning. If you want your SEC baseball picks with your cup of coffee. We'll come back, and we will get you caught up on what's going on in Augusta, Georgia at the Masters. Local boy went low. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is the website. If you're a business owner and you're worried about running your business and you're not real sure about employment practices liability insurance or whether you need it or what it covers, you may not know what your crime policy should be responding to or what cyber coverage means for you, specifically if somebody clicks an email they're not supposed to. Do you need directors and officers insurance? What about umbrella limits? If these are things that you're not necessarily comfortable with, but you know what your insurance policy costs, well, maybe go a little bit deeper than that. And the Howard Insurance Group has a group of technical experts that are here to help you do just that. So reach out to Jonathan Garbo and his team at the Howard Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com. And just let them take a second look at your insurance program. No matter what it is that you do, they have someone in their client list that does something very, very similar, and they know where your insurance needs to be placed. The Highland Insurance Group, find them online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com is the website, FabryChevrolet.com. You can find them on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. And, of course, as I mentioned, online at FabryChevrolet.com. The entire inventory is there. If you're looking for a truck, they got Silverados up to $11,000 off MSRP. Maybe a GMC Sierra for you, up to $13,000 off MSRP. Maybe you need a new SUV for the new road trip coming up this summer. They got Tahoes, they got Suburbans, they got Yukons, they got Denali's. They're all in the lot there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. And you know, every time you go, you're going to get a wonderful buying experience, great customer service, and that service extends after the sale. Fabry family's been at it for 35 years in Baton Rouge. You can trust them. Highway 61 in St. Francisville, online at FabryChevrolet.com. All right, some local action there at Augusta National, day one of the Masters. If you don't want any spoilers, you got to turn me off, unfortunately, because we're going to go down the leaderboard a little bit. Sam Burns with a career low round at Augusta. He fires a 67, 5 under par. He leads the tournament by himself. Right behind him in the rearview mirror, the defending champ, Rory McIlroy, is 4 under through 14, playing the par 5 15th. Rory has been pretty clean on his round today, just one bogey at the third hole. Jason Day is off to a good start. He is 3 under. And, of course, another local storyline there, Patrick Reed, a former Masters champion. I picked him yesterday to be my winner on the show. He eagled number 2 today, went out in 5 under 31 on the front 9. He did bogey number 10. He did bogey number 15 as well, which is a pretty bad bogey. So he's 3 under, playing the 17th hole right now. That's 2 shots off Burns' pace. Scotty Scheffler off to a good start. He made eagle at 2. He's 3 under through 4 holes today. Shane Lowry and Tommy Fleetwood, 2 excellent Europeans, are 2 under, playing the 18th hole. Good old Freddie Couples. You know old Freddie's going to show up, bad back, smooth tempo, sauntering around, probably didn't play 10 holes of a practice round, and there he is at 2 under through 8 holes today. So excellent work from Sergio. Been a tough go for some of the players who you expected to have a really good go at it today. Specifically Bryson DeChambeau, 4 over par through 16 holes today. He made a triple bogey on the 11th. It took him 3 swings to get out of the back bunker on 11, which is just jarring to see a professional. And even the third one that came out was well short. So he made a triple bogey 6 on number 11. I'll be honest, don't hate to see it. Patrick Cantley, 4 over on his round today. And then some of the guys that you would expect not to have a great go of it. One of the stories I was listening to, this takes a little bit of a golf nerd, but I have 90 seconds here to do it. One of the golf podcasts I was listening to yesterday was talking about Aldridge Potgieter, who is a young player from South Africa who hits the ball a country mile. I mean, blasts it all over the place, but not the best short game player and has never played at Augusta before. No, sorry, he only played Augusta once. So this is his second time. And he was playing today with Jose Maria Olazabal, who is in his 60s and has won the Masters and is just going off course knowledge with Potgieter hitting it 70 yards past him. They played in a group today, and Potgieter shot 12 over par. He shot an 84. And Jose Maria Olazabal just took out the old set of clubs, grabbed a caddy, and went out there and shot 74. He beat him by 10. He beat him by 10 shots. This is the guy that won the Masters. This is his 37th appearance in the Masters. So that can only happen at Augusta. At the U.S. Open, that's just not really a possibility. A guy who's a touring professional, who is a guy that's a threat to win week to week on the PGA Tour, he's going to go out there hitting it 100 yards by all these guys, and he's going to do well. But Augusta, that won't fly. And Jose Maria goes out there and beats him by 10 shots in the same group. And that's a funny aspect of Augusta. And, of course, I mentioned Freddie Couples. But to look at the leaderboard right now, Sam Burns leads the way at 5 under. Rory McIlroy right behind him. A group at 3 under par of Kurt Kitayama, Jason Day, Patrick Reed, Aaron Ray, Ludwig Oberg, and Scotty Scheffler. So they're off and running at Augusta. Weather's great. Should be an unbelievable weekend of golf. Get you caught up on more of that on tomorrow's show. If you missed any of Hour 1, catch it on demand. We'll come back with a second hour. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. If you're looking for that Generac home standby generator, look no further than the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux have been running it for 40 years. They know what they're doing. They're local. They care about this community. And they want you to know that you can get that Generac home standby generator from the big box stores. You can do that. But what's the customer service level if you do that? You make the purchase, it gets installed. What if something goes wrong? Who do you call? What if you're supposed to have it spring into action during hurricane season and it doesn't? Well, Boudreaux's Electrical, you get that local touch. You get a full-time staff that comes out and installs it. You get monitoring of that equipment. So if there is a mechanical failure or an issue, they can come out and fix it, do that maintenance so that when you need your generator to come on to give you that power when the power goes off, it does. Give them a call at 985-397-1562 or the Gonzales location, 225-300-9389.